manufacturer of the powder. You have to feed in all the data and but how much of experience do you have with these presbyopic IPCL? You don't know what to do.
Evo, the ICL Evo is trifocal, it doesn't have rings and it doesn't have a toric. So, what?
CD4 lymphocytic or ICL. So now what's going on? For break our findings and now for primary immunodeficiency, we have lymphopenia, CD30 cell deficiency, oral leukopenia, short stage and the splitting of nails. By for the diagnosis of idiopathic CD4 lymphocytopenia, we have a low CD4 T cell count, the RTESG. Now this, along with the physical findings, pointed towards the diagnosis of this keratosis. The diagnosis was that of this keratosis. So we went back to the literature to check for this, and we did find multiple anecdotal reports of vasculitis associated with this keratosis congenita. As the time passed by, the visual acuity remained at 6 in both the eyes with minimal anti-segment inflammation, persisting vitritis, and streaming of vessels still were persisting. At this point, we again repeated the fundus fluorescein angiography, and the picture remained the same. Now we have almost followed this. We had already followed.
Phageal presentation. Similarly, another child presented after trauma where we advised them with bed rest and head elevation. We provided them with topical steroids, anti-glaucoma drops, and to control the IOP further, oral acetazolamide was also added in addition to of left eye open globe penetrating injury in the zone 1 and 2 with hyphema of grade 3 and uveal tissue prolapse, immediate copious irrigation with ringer lactate and the foreign body removal. The fourth category where impacted ocular foreign body was seen. It was a iron foreign body as a result of all this variety of ocular trauma could lead to myriads of complications, and to prevent those it is important that we attend to them on an urgent basis. It is essential for the people to wear the protective eyewear in that possible. Thank you. Injury to that of the most traumatic RTA patients. So, the
type of cases that are present. Thank you.
We should keep a discussion for the lunchtime maybe. Please start with.
No disease at birth develops ROP with the serial fundus evaluation. So this study was conducted at L.V. Prasad Eye Institute, Mithuthusu Chandrai campus, Bhubaneswar, which is the retinal images were taken with the help of 3 Netra Neo 4S camera, and the first examination is done on any day within 1 to 2 weeks of birth, weekly, till the development of ROP or zone 2 mature retina. However, babies who are too unstable to image with hazy media, inadequate follow-up and lack of parental consent were excluded from the study. So after collecting the...
In your study, you said within the first week, so the quality of images, did you analyze percentage of quality which are gradable in your photographs?
Yeah, so it depends on various things. Even in the severe or non-dilating pupil, the quality won't be much better. But since we have to rely on 3 Netra Neo, we can't take red cam. But with his very hazy media, we have excluded from the study.
Next, yeah. Episode which can be due to viral, bacterial or rickettsial, and the features are very mild or no vitritis and hemorrhagic spots are there and exudates are there. By and large, the outcome is favorable, but we don't have a fixed criteria to treat these patients, and empirically we treat either of observation only, doxycycline, oral steroid, or a permutation combination of these. So the study purpose was to examine if there is any role of retinitis lesions location in the retina and other biomarkers like hard exudates in the retina, whether they are associated with the central foveal thickness and visual outcome. So this is a hospital-based retrospective case series. Patient with a recent history of fever presenting with acute vision loss to our center were included. There were total 27 patients and 36 eyes. Macular edema was defined as a central foveal thickness of more than 300 micron with presence of any fluid, IRF or SRF, and all the patients underwent the I have included as subsequent order. So if you can see this, the left image, the lesion location is the first order, and the second we can see it is either the second order or third order, so it is subsequent order lesion location that exudates. This is peripapillary. Peripapillary is defined as lesions within 1 disc diameter from the margin of the disc, and the last one we can see this is a mixture of all varieties, first, subsequent and peripapillary. Coming to the result group by Padmamalini Mahendra Das data, but it is equivalent to the central India study from AIIMS Bhopal they have done. So there is regional variation probably. And as you can see, there was a preponderance of cases during the winter season. And if we see the order of vessel-wise cases, most of the cases were first order, subsequent order, peripapillary 13%, and only subsequent order 12 cases were there. And if we see here the OCT findings, please see the overall column over here. 751 was the thickness, and it reduced nicely. And when I tried to see any difference between more than 800 or less than 800 thickness presentation, there was no difference. That means all the patients did very good, and the thickness decreased over time. Similar thing was there for the visual acuity. Visual acuity improved over a follow-up period for all the patients. So these are some cases. I can show you the case number 1. We can see the macular edema is there, and nicely we can see the edema is resolving over here. Here also is subsequent order vessel, and the right eye is the first order vessel involved, but the outcome was better. Case 14 we can see here. I want to emphasize on the macular star pattern of exudate over here. So macular star pattern, if we can see, it was present in around say 58% cases during presentation and follow-up 46% cases. So this is an important slide. You can see macular star pattern was more present in first order, subsequent order, peripapillary, all locations, and subsequent order only the edema was less. So this is a case where hard exudate was present and macular thinning happened and patient was having less vision. So to conclude, if the patient is having in all the 3 locations, then hard exudate pattern is more in these cases. So that's what my study is going, that this patient, probably they need doxycycline, steroid, and combination of treatment. Thank you. These 2 things I wanted to study, and because biomarker defines anything, say OCT, thickness or fluid, anything can be. So that's why I use the term biomarker for these 2 lesions to study.
Would have added to it.
Yes, sir. This is actually limitation of this study, because not all the cases are done either OCTA or FFA, so I could not access that. But you are telling it's very right. Maybe in future studies we will interpret that. This image will be. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is again Dr. Smruti Rekha Priyadarshini.
Inclusion criteria was that all patients who underwent and agreed to use BSS lenses, and outcomes were improvement in vision and relief of symptoms. So all patients underwent a comprehensive ophthalmic examination. Scleral lenses were fitted as per the standard protocols. Over-refraction was performed, and a minimum adaptation time of 4 hours was considered to ensure the fitting. So the primary outcome measure was improvement in best corrected visual acuity with the scleral lenses compared to baseline and spectacle correction. And the secondary outcome was symptomatic improvement in terms of comfort, photophobia, decrease in the frequency of medication, resolution of keratopathy, that is superficial punctate keratopathy, and ocular surface protection. So the mean age was 29 years. In our patients, in our cohort, we saw more ectasias, and after we started prescribing scleral lenses, our keratoplasty numbers have also come down. So most of the ectasia patients undergo RGP followed by scleral lenses. If not tolerating, then we go ahead with the PKA. So other indications were Stevens-Johnson's sequelae and corneal scar. Previous surgery again was done in 76 eyes with mucous membrane grafting, mostly for the Stevens-Johnson patients, and collagen cross-linking in ectatic patients. So when we tried to compare the vision we compared the uncorrected visual acuity with spectacles with scleral lenses, we found that the mean baseline best corrected visual acuity improved from 1.2 for logMAR units to 0.226 with the scleral lenses, corresponding to a mean gain of 9.5 lines in the Snellen's chart. Symptomatic relief, which was seen at 6 months, was a marked symptomatic relief in terms of discomfort, relief of discomfort and reduced photophobia in 98.8 patients. The decrease in frequency of medications in 24%, and it provided ocular surface protection in 17. So there were no complications seen in 168 patients, and few had congestion, discharge, irritation, debris, and other issues. So this was the, we tried to compare both the groups, that the ectatic disorder groups where we prescribed and the ocular surface disease group. We saw that definitely the vision, the improvement in vision was seen more with scleral lenses in the ectatic disorder group, same with the mean lines of improvement. And but symptomatically it helped more with the ocular surface disorder. Definitely because of the symblepharon and scars, it was more challenge to fit these lenses in the ocular surface disorder group. So this is one of my patient who had whom we can see that was not very comfortable. This is the Steven Johnson patients without the scleral lenses, and this is with the scleral lenses on. So to conclude, scleral lenses provide visual and therapeutic benefits, especially in two major conditions. One is ectasia and the other is ocular surface disorders. Compared to the ocular surface disease eyes, ectatic eyes achieve superior post-lens best corrected visual acuity and greater lines of improvement. And scleral lenses demonstrated efficiency in managing both these conditions. So this study highlights the dual role of scleral lenses as both optical as well as protective device. These are my references. Thank you.
I avoided PK.
Yeah, so all these patients who were this ectatic group, they were all in solution, and unfortunately they want to go ahead with they think that PK is a one procedure, but when we counsel them, some agree, some may not. And the other issue is the price also. So price also is an issue. Nobody wants to put the lens in the morning and take it after 4 to 5 hours and then again place it back again. So these issues do come with us, but
My question is regarding historical comparison. Previously, what percentage of severity are undergoing PK?
Yes.
Now you could avoid them.
yes.
That's what
So we have this data. It is not here, but we have from 2019 before 2000 Hyderabad, and how after that the numbers increased.
Thank you, Smruti. Our next speaker, Dr. Vijayana Virajita.
Larger implant placement and a preserved orbital volume. So with of the equilateral sclerotomy technique, in terms of ease of performing the technique and time duration required to perform the sclerotomy, that is the learning curve, and the secondary outcomes with objectives were to assess the functional and the cosmetic outcome. So with proper ethical...
I want to tell you what my first lesson was. That is lesson 1, that is choose your mentor well. That is what is very important. So basically that was a video where this kid was, showing his hand, and everybody was coming and, just clapping this guy's hand. And then this fellow just made the kid's hand a little more higher, and then he also started clapping with everybody. So I don't know why the video is not working. But then this is your life, this is where your mentor enters your life, and this is where you go to success. Otherwise it will just be, blah. So choosing your mentor right is very, very important for your success. So Dr. John had actually entered my life, and a lot of things changed afterwards. And that is when I made my first innovation, that was trash in the red camp. So basically doing a retina imaging using a sanitizer bottle. And he then told me, why don't you present this in my first Tamil Nadu conference, that was in Puduview 18. And we started, because that was the first time I had done something in life, especially something in ophthalmology. And that was very heartbreaking. So then that was the second lesson of my life, that if you are going to go for a conference to present any of these things, better read the rule book, become members. That is what I always tell my PGs now. So present your ideas, but don't forget to take a membership of any of those societies, and check the rules before you apply for all these things, because later on if it is actually good and if you don't get an award, you will become so disheartened. So always take membership and check the rules. The second lesson. And then, but one thing good was after a week I actually happened to see my photo in newspapers in Pondicherry newspapers, saying that I had actually made innovation where I brought down lakhs of rupees to just 500 rupees instrument, and so that was something looking forward for me. And then after that so this was Dr. Amol who actually made me understand why it is very necessary for us to publish our articles. So he told, now that you have already presented this, you should actually go ahead and publish this, otherwise people just copy it and you will not get credited or anything like that. So then it's something very difficult for me is to write articles, but somehow that inspiration to keep my red cap for my name. So I sat for a month and wrote the whole article, and then we got published in the IJO. And to my surprise, Dr. Santosh Honavar was the editor then, and he actually started a different, separate thing, very big. And after that, it got even published in the AIS Times, and I even got the best publication award that year for my first article. So that was something really big. So I was the disheartened I was because I didn't get Tamil Nadu, but I got a much better thing all India level. So it was a very wow this thing for me. And then after that again my community medicine HOD called me and told me, see, you have done this once, but people will tell that it is fluke. So you should not stop doing what you're doing, you should keep pursuing what you're doing, and this is something which nobody tells you. So then also he told me that once you made a instrument, you should always validate it. So I started validating and I sent it for publication. That got published, and I got the paper to be presented in my first international conference that was in Bangkok in 2019, and that was another achievement for me that time. So then lesson 3 is I was keeping on innovating, because they said once and twice if you do something it is fluke. It is just by luck that he got. So you should never stop with that, you should keep doing it. So that's why I tell my residents also, keep innovating, keep publishing, keep presenting, and do not stop. Just keep doing what you're doing. And even now, even today, I make it a point that I at least innovate one instrument per year. So I should not stop, because that is how everything started. So exactly like that, we started presenting everywhere, getting a lot of awards here and there. And when opportunity knocks to your door, always attend it. So any opportunity you get, you grab it and you keep doing what you can do. And that is how I got one collaboration with Aroma, that is with John Hopkins International College. They wanted my ASPI device, and they took it and they started using it in outreach programs. They 3D printed it and also used it and got a lot of grants for the same thing. So these are all the images, and then we started innovating more such articles got published, more such awards we won. So, and this was Apple Tree, think under the Apple Tree, where you actually present your innovations and you actually get proper actual Apple products like iPhones and iWatch and all those things. So that was a big motivation for me to keep innovating and present every year in this program in All India Ophthalmic Society. And this actually keeps us motivated to do a lot of things. And this was the first international award that I got in World Cataract and Refractive Surgery. So this was another thing. So lesson 5 was lesson 5, and the last lesson what I would want everybody to know is learn new skills. So you can learn video making, you learn poster making. I have learned 3D designing. I have also learned how to patent my innovations. Becoming an entrepreneur is the next thing what I want to learn. So all these things are something you need to keep adding new skills to yourself, so that you can go to the next level. Otherwise, you just keep. These are all the posters that we made in All India, which won award, and a lot of other awards that we got. This was in Asia Pacific ophthalmology. I won 2 awards consecutive years in APAO. So all these awards, and these are all the 4 awards that I won in 2022, and few more in 2023. 5 awards, HomePod and iWatch, and this was in APAO 2024. So basic thing is you need to keep doing what you like. Find the problem and have a good research, and then find the solution for the.
This is the most common organism for endophthalmitis. In India, it is gram-negative infection or fungal infections. Now, this is the ASCRS endophthalmitis prophylaxis survey in 2021, where almost 99% or 93% of the antibiotic provided drug was approved for its use. The drugs which are available are cefuroxime, moxiflor, compounding it in the pharmacy, and also some of the emergence of the resistant gram-negative isolates. Vancomycin also cataract surgery. Yet another very important study from the Arvind Eye Hospitals. Again, more than 6 lakh patients. The endophthalmitis rate also was significantly decreased from 0.07 to 0.02%, which means it became 3.5 times less. Important thing is that in cases where rent occurred, posterior capsule rent occurred, but the use of intracameral moxifloxacin decreased the rate of endophthalmitis. This was our first survey that we did in 2017 on AIOS members, and response rate was there. And there was some similarity and dissimilarity in the choice of the antibiotic that ASCRS uses and AIOS uses. Some 3,000 ISIS this, again the power of the study is less in this. But again, this did show that intracameral moxifloxacin does decrease significantly the rate of endophthalmitis. And this was our second survey again, and when we compare it with our first survey, then we realized that more and more members of the All India Ophthalmological Society wanted to use intracameral moxifloxacin from 40% in 2017 to 58% in 2022. Endophthalmitis, and the power of the studies. And the inclusion criteria was all those patients who had undergone lens implantation, and the post-op regime, of course, the antibiotics were given. If there was any location, optic size, haptic size, IOL position, PCR, presence of PCR wound closure, there was no difference between the 2 groups. Important thing was this, that is intracameral moxifloxacin decreases odds of post-op endophthalmitis by 2.5 times as compared to the control group in this randomized controlled study, and so this was found to be statistically significant. Now, in terms of the microbiology, there was, and this paper of ours got Best Paper of the Session award in ASCRS 2025 this year, and now is published just a couple of.
So 3 millimeter and 5 millimeter both are good in this case. If you compare with the techniques platform, EDOF does very good in the intermittent zone. What is very important for this techniques POC is the providers. These are some of the reviews. I am not going to this case. This is just a exclusive. So I go back to my last slide. Thank you very much for patient.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Gender divided for the man
Look. Madam, take a look. Look.
So take from here only.
To do a full microbiological evaluation with gram stain blood. It came out to be a methicillin resistant, also a systemic steroids, because as we all know, the structures in the patient not any sequelae post this, and this was how this child was treated. Now, when I say vision and life-threatening emergency, yes, there are situations where the patient might come to you with, as in this case, who is an engineering student who has to give his exam a week later, where he suddenly emergency was taken up, not even under general anesthesia, under local anesthesia. The only thing that I did was to puncture the lid crease, go inside and take off the pus, and this was how he was in a week's time, and he was ready to go for his exam. He didn't miss his exam as well. Very interesting case. So this was a child who was referred to me from Bihar. She has a, this here, this is a fixed eyeball, there is absolute limitation of motility, and when she came it was no PN in the leg. So this was a case of an orbital cellulitis with an orbital apex syndrome, pyomyositis, and also optic neuritis, and that's why there was a significant reduction in the vision in this patient. Similar, small approach, minimally invasive, took her up under GA immediately the same day that she came in, released that lateral rectus muscle pus, and this is the amount of pus that we got. And luckily, because we acted on time, I think timely action is really important. A best corrected visual acuity finally was 6/36 with a partial optic atrophy. Well, not all infections are bacterial because that's what we see commonly, but in children and pediatric age group, this was a case where the child presented with persistent swelling of the right eye, not much of an orbital cellulitis, but more of a preceptal, slightly involving the eye. Whereas in orbital cellulitis, there will be pain with eye movement, there will be limited motility of eye movements, there can be proptosis, there can be chemosis, diplopia, reduction in vision. So the red flags of orbital involvement is mandatory to go for an imaging. Preceptal still you can observe, treat them with conservative management, but whenever you have these red flags of orbital cellulitis, imaging is really mandatory. Treatment, abscess drainage, if there is a subperiosteal abscess or as a myositis and a pyomyositis that you saw, I would definitely go for abscess drainage. Microbiology profiling is very important. Systemic antibiotics and steroids. I always add steroids. 20-year-old student, best corrected visual acuity in the left eye was 6/60 when 2018. August 2018, she had a recurrence. Case of a non-specific IOID or inflammatory orbital disease, there usually is no orbital, bone erosion. So the bone was very irregular. I went in for a biopsy at this point of time. This is after the biopsy. And the histopathology came as sclerosing variant of IOID with vasculitis. Well, the quantiferon gold test was positive in her. Okay, IgG4 was ruled out. And still with conservative management, she was not doing really well with, recommendation from the infectious disease consultant. We actually thought of starting her on ATT because in tuberculosis infection, there can be erosion of the bone. In fungal granuloma, there can be erosion of the bone. And she finally did well, and this is June 2000. His blood sugar level was more than 400. Suspect
inflammation or a child with orbital inflammation versus an adult with orbital inflammation.
Adult with orbital inflammation, I would consider biopsy more. In a child, of course, as I indicated, the chance of infective orbital cellulitis is more. But in a child who presents with an orbital lesion, if I do an imaging and I find there is something lesion sitting there, certain malignancies like orbital, rhabdomyosarcoma can also turn out to be infective. A large tumor, PNET with necrosis can turn out to be, an infective. So I would also consider in certain situation after evaluating the imaging to take a call on biopsy in children. Yeah.
And the second question is, if I can ask, is related to the fact that this one came out as tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And the histopathology didn't have any.
There was not much of granular. But you know what, Dr. Surya, good question. In fact, I didn't go in for a layered biopsy in that case as well. I just took superficial and deep. I didn't take, although it was too diffuse from there. I did take a biopsy from the bone because there was an erosion, but no granuloma came out of it.
The reason I ask is there have been several instances, at least with us, where you were always ruled out the usuals, and then you've taken a biopsy, and there is a granuloma, there is a suspicion, and unfortunately, the quantiferon gold, despite its high sensitivity, comes out as negative. There's nothing else which the rest does not.
Ma'am, I would definitely go for a biopsy. And if I have to go for a biopsy, I would wait for 3 weeks minimum so that the steroid response is less. And depending upon the biopsy, whether it's specific or non-specific, and I would go for an autoimmune workup. This is how stepwise I would do. And immunomodulation, it's my favorite. I never shy away from immunomodulation. I have a good rheumatologist who works with me. So we either consider methotrexate. Mostly in children, I stick on to methotrexate. It's safe. Mycophenolate mofetil is something that I really like. It's not, the complication or side effects are not too bad. So I would consider, depending upon if I get a specific one, I would start them on it, and if there is a recurrence, definitely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so
Now I
much.
would request Dr. Gopal sir to get the middle to. She will be leading for.